Auburn had their A-Day, which is their spring game this past weekend. And we saw Cam Coleman do Cam Coleman things. So that was pretty encouraging if you're an Auburn fan. But I think that I'm ready to say some definitive things about Auburn. Now, the portal's still going to do what the portal does, I'm sure, and I would expect Auburn to probably add some guys, and I have no idea if they'll lose some guys, but just by nature of the law of nature in college football, nobody is immune to that. Auburn's over-under win total is at 7.5. I got a strong feeling on this one. We'll talk about it right now. Make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We appreciate you so much for that. College football every single day. College football the way that you want it covered every single day, all right? We're not hot takers. We're not headline makers. Like, we just love this game so much, the way that you love this game, and so we're going to talk about it in that fashion. Thank you for being locked in. Thank you for being subscribed. So I think Auburn, when it comes to that win total, I think they're going to blow that out of the water. Now, what does that look like? Is it 9 wins? Is it a smooth 8 wins? Like, I don't know, but I feel really confident on putting an over down on Auburn for that 7.5 win total. A big reason why, when you look at this roster, man, like, I understand Payton Thorne doesn't provide the most confidence if you're looking strictly at what he did last year. A lot of moments where you're like, golly, can we throw a forward pass? I get that. I feel you on that. We'll talk about that. But the roster in itself is a lot of dudes that can play right now in the SEC. Like, I don't think Auburn has this massive roster talent deficiency. Do they have the best roster in the SEC? I think we'd all be kidding ourselves a little bit if we went so far to say that. But I think Auburn, by nature of the games they were in last year, I know they were at home against Georgia. I know they were at home against Alabama. You cannot ignore the fact that they were down to the final drive against Georgia, the final play against Alabama, and those are two of the best teams in the country. Georgia, I think, probably should have made the college football playoff. Alabama did make the college football playoff. So if that's the measuring stick and you're Auburn, what can you do this year in your second year under Hugh Freeze? And again, the roster talent itself, I think, by what they showed last year and who they have coming back and who they added through the portal, there should be a lot of excitement around the things that they can do. Like, they don't have to wait. They don't have to wait around, is what I've said before about Auburn. They can be in position right now to be some takers in that conference. So another reason why I like that over-under win total, the over on the over-under win total, rather, for that 7.5 win mark. Now, again, Payton Thorne is going to be the reason why a lot of folks say, too sweet for me, too rich for me. I hear you. I understand. I'm not even saying you're wrong for having reservations. But the thing with Payton Thorne is the context around him in 2024 is massively more favorable than it was in 2023. The first is you add in a guy like Cam Coleman. And if you flipped on the highlights of that spring football game, you saw number 8 flash in a very big way. He should be in high school right now. He enrolled early. He had 4 catches for 92 yards. Big-time touchdown in the A-Day from Payton Thorne, by the way. And that's not just a one-off thing where it's like, oh, who's this Cam Coleman guy? Like, the buzz throughout spring practice was, this dude's going to play. This dude probably going to start. This guy, different than anybody else we have on the roster. And so, as a quarterback, the way that Auburn struggled last year, yes, you point the finger at Payton Thorne, but I think we'd also be kidding ourselves, be a little bit ridiculous if we didn't take into account the guys that he's throwing the football to. They didn't have anybody like Cam Coleman on that roster last year. That's not me throwing shade. We're just stating facts here. He is a game changer. That's me saying that, and that's Hugh Freeze saying that, which he said as much after the A-Day in their press conference. The other part of this with Payton Thorne, I think the offense they're running under Hugh Freeze has more direction than they've ever had since he's gotten there. And we saw this in flashes last year. There was a reason why Auburn was successful moving the ball against Georgia. Apparently Hugh Freeze kind of said, hey, pass that controller this way. I'm gonna pick a few plays here. I'm going to kind of go first-person shooter right now, all right? And there was a reason they were that successful. Like, there was a very obvious change in tempo, change in direction, change in result. And so now having a full season with him running the show, I think that's also going to pay dividends. And when I talk about direction, like, I think there's a very clear identity that I didn't really see as much from Auburn last year when Hugh Freeze wasn't running things. And it is this year, directionally, we're going to run the football. We're going to keep you off balance. We're going to mess with the second level of your defense. Those linebackers, they're not going to know if it's Payton Thorne on the read option. They're not going to know if it's a speed sweep around the edge. We're going to attack the perimeter, and we're going to make you have to honor our run game. When we do that now, we got that pass option where we can hit you over the top. And Cam Coleman, his ability to win 50-50 balls, that's going to be a big difference maker in what they didn't have last year offensively and what they will have this year. So the thing that I think sticks out with Payton Thorne, man, yes, he's got more weapons. Yes, he's got, I think, a little bit more help schematically. But the way that he was stepping into his throws in that spring game, maybe I'm taking too much from it. But I think the way that he is confidently delivering the football and knowing where he's going with it, there's no double clutching it. There's no guessing where he's going with the football. Like, he is very much so, I'm throwing the ball here. And that sounds like a simple thing. I promise you, for Payton Thorne in this offense, to have that kind of confidence, that can make all the difference in the world. Your quarterback feeling more confident in the system can make all the difference in the world. And I think that's a very big byproduct of him now getting 15 spring practices, which he did not get last year before being thrown into the deep end. That was the SEC. So I think Payton Thorne will have a massively different output than he did in 2024 or 2023. And I think you'll see different results in a large part in 2024. And so that's a big reason why I'm high on the over there for Auburn. Now, the thing with Auburn, too, better roster, or a roster talent that's better than people want to give credit to. If Payton Thorne's a question mark, I think he passes that test for you with flying colors. And, well, flying colors is generous. I think he passes that test for you enough to have the over on that 7.5 win total. But the internal culture for Auburn is what I really want us to focus on here, because it's tough to quantify, right? Like, you can't put a rushing yards next to how bought in your team is, and you can't put a number of points allowed per game next to who's doing the right things behind closed doors. But I think there's something to be said for a culture going from year one to year two, and buy-in going from, hey, we will be, we will be present, we'll attend, to we're bought in. There's a difference from going to we want to eat to we're willing to go out and hunt for what we want to eat. And I think that's where Auburn is shifting right now. We talked to Hugh about this when we went out and visited him during spring practice. He said this is now a more player-led operation. He said he went to them, asked them for their input, and then took their input to the team and said, if anybody disagrees with this, speak now. If you don't like how we're about to go about our business, say your piece right now. And he said he's thrilled with the results to this point, and I believe it. I believe it. Like, the growing pains in a lot of ways from last year, the New Mexico State game, the being so close against teams like Georgia, I think the flashes are encouraging, but growing pains are just that. They're painful. Like, we say it a lot on this show. Whenever you start to do things the right way, you don't feel good at first. When you've been eating junk food for the better part of the last few months and you start eating right, eating clean foods, your body has this response where it's like, what is going on? I feel sick. I don't feel right. It takes some time before you see the results. You start hitting the gym. You go to the gym for the first 2 days, you're like, I think I broke something. I think my body is literally about to shut down. You keep on going, you keep pressing through, and you get to where you want to be at physically. That's what Auburn's doing right now, and I think the way they've used the portal and the way they're going to be better offensively is kind of fast-tracking that. So the over-under win total, again, it's 7.5. I think they'll be a team that's pushing for 9 wins, if we're just going to be honest right now. We're sitting here in April, so we reserve our right to, sort of tinker with that win total. But, I mean, we're going to sit down and do our schedule predictions here via our social media platform on TikTok, and we will not have Auburn under 7 wins. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.